Well, hey everybody, how are you doing? Ah, man, I'm so excited to bring you some information tonight in Trep across America. I am JB Brown, your fearless host. I don't know if I'm fearless. I'm not even. I won't even go to the grocery store right now. So I suppose that's not very fearless at all, is it? And I'm here joined by Robert Segelquist. Robert, how you doing, buddy?
I'm good. Yourself, sir?
I'm doing well, man. I love your hat. Just before I say anything, I just want to know if anybody can tell who doesn't know Robert in the comments, if you're here, where he's from. Because I knew the minute, not that I already knew this, but if I hadn't known, I would have immediately known where Robert was from based upon the headwear that he has chosen for, for this episode.
South
He is,
Dakota, right?
yeah, that's exactly right. I was thinking New York City was where I was going to go with. No, just joking. Shout out to our friends in New York City. Hope you guys are all safe and well. But Robert is from Texas. He is a Texan. Are you born and raised Texan, Robert?
Born and raised in Houston.
Houston, Texas. Okay.
Don't hold it
Um,
against me.
no, man. I've got what is it? I got a few exes that live in Texas. No, I don't. That's a little shout out to George Strait. But that's awesome, man. I need a hat like that. As y'all can see, I don't have a whole lot going on up here, and the lights are a little bright. So I apologize for the glare that you guys are getting. But we wanted to spend some time just trying to bring you value. And this will be an entire series. It'll be a podcast. You can see it on Facebook. You can see it on YouTube. Go ahead and jump in my YouTube channel. I'll put the link in the comments here and hit subscribe and notify. And also at the bottom of the screen is the Facebook group. So if you have not subscribed to the Facebook group, do that. I'll pop it into the comments too. And that way, as we bring sort of different pieces of information to you, you can just jump in and see it if it's applicable to you. So tonight, our very first inaugural episode, we're going to start talking about something important that I'm now just learning about myself, and Robert has been kind enough to help me out, which is automation. So Robert, before we get into automation and all of the wonderful things that it can do for you as a business owner, tell the audience a little about yourself and kind of where you come from.
Okay. Well, I'm a greasy redneck out of Texas.
You look clean. I don't know.
Well, under this hat, there's
There you go.
But anyway, no, my father's always joked, if you want a job done right, have a lazy guy do it. And he taught me from a very young age to
That's a good
do what I have to do to get something done right, so I don't have to do it later. And it's like recently, I've probably spent 5 or 6 hours building out a process with a Stripe API that will cover a 30-second process when it's done. But in the long run, it'll pay off.
I want to stop you right there. For those of us who are not tech savvy like me, what's an API?
Oh God, automated programming interface. I think that's the right word.
Which does?
It sends data between point A and point B.
Okay.
We'll get more into that here in a little bit.
Sure.
But
All right.
yeah, so application programming interface.
Okay.
Anyway, I can never remember what, I should know what that means.
You just know the acronyms, but yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah, I know what it is. But the base of it is that I've realized through my travels and through the jobs I've had, and I'm a bad employee. In the last 3 years, I only held a job more than 6 months because I refuse to work harder than I have to.
Yeah.
My goal is to make as much money as I can with as little effort. And if you're going to pay me for 40 hours, I only want to work 20 of those. And if you're going to make me work 45, I'm not kosher with that.
Yeah.
And I've literally had jobs. I had a project I was on where we were collecting field data on a construction site, coming back to the office and rewriting it 5 times. Wow. And I said, why are we doing this? Because you're going to have transcription errors. You're going to have calculation errors multiple times. Why not have a system that does this for us? And I went and built this. I got the project manager's approval, built the system, and they wouldn't implement it.
Now, what was their logic? What was their logic for that? I have a feeling I know the answer, but I'm curious.
There was none.
Yeah. So probably would have put somebody out of a job, would be my guess.
And that was the thing, is it wouldn't have. It just eased the load.
Oh, looks like we might have lost Robert.
I'm still here. Can you hear me? I'm still here, JB. Can you hear me? I'm still connected. I'm going to move on as if we're still here. JB, anybody? It looks like JB froze up. I'm checking back on the Facebook feed. So I'm going to keep going and hope he logs back in. He's back in.
Let me log the other JB out because he was not doing a good job. Sorry about that.
Normally it is me that freezes up. So I was like, oh man. Anyway, so where are we at? The last thing I think I said was that last job, they
Yeah,
wouldn't put anybody out of a job.
you came up with a better way to do it, but they weren't interested, which, by the way, has happened to me when I used to work for other folks. That happened all the time and usually there's a key phrase that I look for to know that I'm not and I still use this today when I consult with organizations and people. If I hear that's the way we've always done it, I immediately know I either need to rip the Band-Aid off of this and get them to change the way they're thinking, or I need to leave because I'm about to get mad.
The podcast intro that I recorded a while back actually starts with "That's the way we've always done it" is the wrong way.
Yes,
and
sure.
My voice doesn't have the bass to do that correctly, but it is what it is. Anyway, so but that's kind of how I got to where I am. I realized that there is a need for people like me that can come in and do a thing for you and make the thing better, and fill the gap that you don't realize. And as you said, JB, you heard Rob Verzera, who's been commenting here a couple times, that he said in a show the other day, he said, if you've done it more than 3 times in a day, it should be automated.
I did hear that, Rob. Shout out to you. Yeah, you said that the other day, and it got me thinking. There's about 9 things that I can think of that I probably should figure out how to automate. So great,
right? And a lot of people don't understand what can be automated. They think there has to be a manual input, or they think I have to fill in a variable in a okay, I got to put this in normal people speak. They think that if I have a customer that's an oil field customer, I need to give them this response, and if it's a solar power customer, they need this response. There's ways to make that automated so that when they send in a quote request based on the value of the field of company type, it gives it segments the correct response to give them.
So let me break that down even simpler. So because I think what you're saying, and I don't know how sophisticated our audience is when it comes to automation. So at the end of the day, as I understand it, and correct me if I'm wrong, as I understand it, any business I'm in, and we've got folks from a lot of different types of businesses here. So we might have somebody who is a brick mason who has customers they do bid jobs for. We might have somebody who's a general contractor, same thing. You may have somebody who's a realtor, somebody who owns a $25 million shipping business where they're doing e-commerce products and they're sending them to people and they're doing a lot of customer interaction. At the end of the day, there are some similar tasks as business owners that we all have, and they're usually what I call PITA tasks. And you know exactly what PITA stands for: pain in the arse, as my Irish heritage would have me say. So they're things that you just kind of have to do. They don't require a lot of mental energy. You just do them over and over and over again. So for me, here's some examples that I would think of. So responding to customer emails, because a lot of times some of the same requests that come in, they're probably very similar keywords, I bet. I know that. So for me, I might have, if I get 50 emails a day, you could probably break those down into 2 or 3 commonly asked questions. And now I don't know this for sure, but when I was thinking about what Rob said the other day about if you do something more than one time, more than a few times in a day, more than 3 times, is that what he said? More than 3 times.
Yeah.
More than 3 times in a day, you can automate it. Well, for example, hey, I'm interested in a quote for service. How much is it charge per hour? What is your price per hour? What is your speaking engagement fee? These are super common emails that I get that I'd never in a million years thought of. I could probably figure out a way to cleverly build an automated response so that if it picks up those keywords, boom, it just hits it back with a canned response. I don't know if that's possible, but that's an idea that I was thinking about. Quotes. Here's another one. If you have software that you interact with. So this is a great one. You helped me with this, Robert. So a lot of us who are in business have recognized the power of Facebook groups. So they're enormously powerful. You can really leverage a Facebook group to get out information and to communicate with your audience, so to speak. And I do that with multiple ones. And historically, what I would do is I would set up a Facebook group, and then either I or in many cases a virtual assistant would have to be a moderator, go in every time somebody would request to be added to that Facebook group. You have some questions set up because you really want to try to screen out folks that are just not a good fit for your audience. And so you create a small barrier to entry. And one of the barriers to entry for that is you ask them a couple of questions that if you're a human being, you can answer these questions just to make sure you're not a robot or a scammer. And then you ask for an email. And the reason you ask for an email, it's not to be intrusive. It's because one, you want to try to send out information to folks that ideally are interested in what you're saying in an efficient way. And 2, generally scammers don't have an email and they won't put it in there. And if it's a bot, that won't pop in there. So manually taking that information and sticking it on a Google spreadsheet, or I use Active Campaign, sticking it in there. It's just boring scut work that you have to do over and over and over again. You were kind enough to hook me up with the beta of your program that you created, Groups Pro, and I hooked. It's a Chrome extension. I hooked that thing up, and I'm going to let you explain. Hello to your lady friend there. She just walked by. If you wait long enough, one of my kids in the office here are going to run by doing something. They may or may not have clothes on. We're going to find out. You never know. You really never know around here. It gets weird. I got an 8, 6, and a 4-year-old, and they just kind of do their own thing. But so getting back to Groups Pro, this is a great example of, it's a task that really, if you think about, here's what I always try to tell folks when I consult. I really want you to think about what your primary, most important function is in your business. And that's different for every one of you. Okay. So everyone watching this now and in the future on the replay, your primary function might be that you're the chief visionary. If you're a visionary type person, you might be the big picture operational architect, moving big pieces around. You might be the person who's the primary salesperson. And every minute of your day that is spent with a customer, that's a revenue producing activity for you. And your hourly rate really should be pretty quantifiable. You should know, as the owner of your business, you really don't need to be spending your time on an $11 an hour task. That's a bad use of your time. So this would be a great example for me in my business. Managing just the ad features of member requests is a terrible use of my time. It's like me going out and mowing my lawn. Can I do it? Yes, but I'm the most expensive lawnmower in the history of the world. So it's probably not the best idea for me to spend 3 hours doing a lawn when I can just go pay a guy to do that for me. Same thing with this. Actually, this is a great example and a great time for you to talk to people about one of the pieces of software for automation that you've created, which is Groups Pro. So hit us up with that a little bit.
I don't want to get too much in. I don't want to make this a pitch fest per se, but
yeah,
you brought it up. But Groups Pro is a tool that there are several tools on the market that do the same thing. Group Convert, Group Funnels are a couple. There's several more. There's a new one that just came out. Actually, somebody released yesterday. But what they do is take your questions and answers from your Facebook group and send them into Google Sheets and or an autoresponder. And the cool thing about Groups Pro that I had built, it's Chrome extension that takes those and sends them straight to Active Campaign, Get Response, or Convert Kit. We're going to add more autoresponders in, but for right now, to get it out the door, I had to pick a couple. But there's no median step. There's no Google Sheet. There's no Zapier. There's no whatever. You download the extension, you put your API key in, you hit go. And that way, when you build out your welcome sequence, and a lot of people, like you were saying, you ask the questions, will give you a free PDF in exchange for your email.
Yep.
And you're going to be marketed to if you give me your email. I think at this point, everybody knows that.
Yeah.
But if you want to deliver that in an automated fashion, right now, you have to go copy that email, paste it in your autoresponder, add them to a list, whatever. Whereas with a tool like Groups Pro, all you have to do is hit submit or hit admit, whatever the word is, and boom, they roll in your autoresponder. They're automatically in your email sequence. So
yeah, absolutely. I love it.
Yeah, I'm not going to.
If you guys are interested in that particular function, I'll put it in the comments here in a few minutes. I'll put a link to it. Check it out. I tried it, and you'll get to know me well, but for those of you who don't, I am a ball buster. Forgive the expression, but I'm a ball buster when it comes to I'm not publicly talk about a service that I don't like and don't use. And so Robert was nice enough to let me beta it, and it just worked. And here's the thing, guys. I am not tech savvy, to say the least. So I'm a really good executive presence, and I'm an excellent problem solver, good negotiator. I talk, sometimes I actually talk a little bit better. Maybe I should try that. But yeah, if this quarantine goes on too much longer, my ability to talk might go down. But I was able to set it up in maybe 8 minutes, really straightforward. It did not take any technical know-how. And the truth is, if he had asked me to do any more steps than what I had to do, this never would have happened because I wouldn't have the ability. But it just works. I open the Facebook page, and then everything's sort of auto-approved based upon parameters that I've set. But moving on from that, automation in general, it's a really important lever, as I like to say. And that's how I use it in my business. It's a lever, and it allows you to accomplish more with it than you were able to accomplish without it. Is that a fair way to say it? And here's some where, and I'd love to get your feedback as to other areas in business where I've used automation to sort of help you be more efficient. For me, it's really about, I think it was Jay Papasan's book, The One Thing. If anybody's ever read that, it's a great book. If you haven't read it, grab it. And it's funny, he wrote it, and it's something I've been doing for years, which is I really don't try to focus on 15 things in a day or a week or a month or a year. I really try to always have an idea of what are the one or two things today, 3 or 4 things this week that I can do and focus on, that by accomplishing those things, everything else kind of becomes either irrelevant or not as important. So I really try hard to off my plate that are not in my area of giftedness and let someone who's better at it do it, especially if it's something that would take me a long time to learn. And it's just sort of do the things that only you can do is my philosophy. So here's what I've taken off my plate. When I need to do software development, I don't do that at all, because by the time I would ever figure out how to do any sort of coding, like business would be being done differently, because it'd be 10 years from now. So I don't do coding. I don't do software, any kind of, software where I need one thing to talk to another thing. I know I'm outsourcing that right away. Anything more than very basic graphic design, I'm outsourcing that too. I can do pretty basic stuff. I can use Canva just like anybody else, but anything that requires anything custom, I can't do that. And it's better for me to outsource it. Video editing, audio editing, I don't do any of that. So these types of things, we're just using raw feed, and I'm not editing these at all because I really want that authentic experience, warts and all. But for something that needed to be a little bit more polished and highly produced, I would just outsource that. And data collection, database management. If I need to put together a huge database of potential customers, and I kind of know what my customer avatar is, and to not be jargony, avatar is simply sort of the composite of the person that is really perfect for your service or your product. It's an imaginary person that's created.
JB, you there? I think JB froze up on us again. But where he was going with that was, I think where he's going with that was database of his avatar, of his type person. An avatar is a breakdown of your customer to different characteristics that will define who you're looking for. And for example, mid-40s male, 2 children, works a blue-collar job. So that would be a breakdown of an avatar for you.
I'm back.
You're back. I was just defining an avatar in your absence.
Thank you, buddy. Yeah, that's it. I mean, really, it's simple. I don't want to overcomplicate it, but it's just who you're marketing to. It's an imaginary representation of who your ideal person that you're marketing to is. And every single one of us in business has one. Most of us have more than one. We kind of know who resonates well with what we do, but more importantly, we know who doesn't. So what's the best way to create a big list of folks that might be interested in what you have to sell? There's a lot of manual sort of scraping that needs to happen in that case. That's a bad use of your time. When you can define it and you can hire somebody else to just go spend hours to do that for you, that is automation. So hiring a virtual assistant who specializes in creating lists based upon the parameters that you have sort of dictated, that's a great automation. Another one would be, for me, a virtual assistant for my personal life has been helpful. Not just personal life, but just sort of the day-to-day of my tasks and scheduling. Not as important now, because with COVID-19, there's not a lot going on in the Brown house at the moment. But when I was, before this all happened, I was doing a fair amount of speaking and traveling, and my travel arrangements, just setting up my travel. That's a monotonous task that I kind of know what I like, what I don't like. It's pretty easy for me to write a list of things that I want and things that I don't want, and to give that to somebody else, and boom, they do it for me. That's an automation. What are some examples in your businesses that you've used to automate?
Well, are you asking the audience or me?
You. Yeah.
Okay.
Actually, in the audience too. Absolutely. You know what? That's a great point. I forget the audience is here. It's just you and me talking. But yeah, if you're watching, please put some comments in here and just the ways that you guys have automated, or things that you recognize are tasks you're doing over and over and over again that you just thought to yourself, I don't know if I really need to do that. We'd love to have some examples. But yeah, Robert, what are some things that you've automated?
So, and I want to kind of define automation, because you've actually got to a point a lot of people don't recognize as automation is manual automation, where you're giving a task to another person, but it's still automated in JB's world. Yeah. JB sends an email that says, hey, I need a flight scheduled on the 15th to St. Louis, and it comes back scheduled. He doesn't go log into Southwest and schedule it.
Yep.
And a lot of people don't recognize that as a form of automation. And I take, for the same token, ClickFunnels. Okay. And whatever platform you want to use, insert platform name here, I don't care.
And for those that don't know, ClickFunnels is a marketing software type program.
It's a website builder sales system. Yeah.
Yeah, good call.
So, but the gist of it is somebody goes into a web page, and that it could be a WordPress web page, whatever, it doesn't matter. Anyway, they go to a web page and they buy something from you. Now, there is not a manual transaction taking place. I don't have to meet you on a street corner, hand you a product, take $50 in cash, and walk away. It has become an automated process.
Yes.
A step back from that is a Facebook ad that automates collecting that client, sending him through the funnel all the way to the sales process. So people sometimes don't realize that is an automated task. And the same goes for using a tool like Calendly or Acuity or Book Like a Boss for your scheduling system, where I'm not sitting here spending 5 or 6 emails back and forth, taking 4 hours to schedule an appointment with JB. He sends me a link. I go to his link. I'm like, hey, I'm free at 7 o'clock on Monday afternoon. Bam, it's done.
Yeah.
And again, that is an automated task. Now, it's still a manual task for somebody, but it's automated in your zone. But back to things I automate, and I do. What's funny is my business is so small. There's not a lot of stuff that I automate in my own business. Goofy enough. There are things I do, but I do a lot of automation for other people. But I have automated things like selective email lists, where I can post a list in this whole group for everybody. I post a URL for an opt-in page for this whole group to be delivered a resource, a PDF, right?
Yeah.
But only half the group is qualified. I don't want the people that aren't qualified to get it. So I build a checklist system in that says verify these emails before it sends the email out. So if JB's not qualified, he puts his email in and hits go, and he just says, thanks for submitting. And he doesn't ever get anything. Or he gets an email that says, ha, you're goof.
I'm definitely not qualified.
Right. But I've done that before, stuff like that.
Yeah.
I've automated email sequences, which is, kind of everything. Everybody does that, where somebody opts into a list somewhere, and then every week they get an email that you send out, regularly, or a follow-up email sequence is better, where a client comes to a sales page and doesn't purchase. So an hour later they get an email, hey, did the dog bark and you forgot to buy it? And a day later, hey, just a reminder, 2 or 3 days later, hey, deal's going on. Week later, okay, well, I'm going to give up on you now. You must hate me. I don't know. But things like that can be automated. And there's some other stuff, and I'll 1 or 2 more examples, and we'll kind of move on. But you can get into things like delivering gift cards or coupons in an email, where we can go in and I can take an opt-in page. Say if you opt in, you get a free 15-minute evaluation at a chiropractor. I don't know, just making it up as we go along. And I get your name, your email. I can literally create in an automated fashion a PDF document that says JB Brown is entitled to a 15-minute thing that expires 7 days from now, so April 14th. All of that on an automation, and send an email to him with that document. And I've never touched it. I don't even know who JB is until he walks in the store.
Right.
And so I've built stuff like that, again, more for client stuff than for myself. One fun one that I built recently for a yoga studio. They were selling their products in ClickFunnels, and then they use a system called MindBody to manage their studio on the scheduling end, and the CRM kind of end of it. And he was having to make a purchase, get an email notification, sit down, copy and paste a name, email, phone number, birthday, billing address, whatever stuff he had to copy over into the system, and create that account manually, and then issue whatever product they purchased. And we finished this up at Funnel Hacking Live back in January. And we literally went to dinner that night. As we're walking out, his phone dinged that he had a Stripe notification. Hey, you've been paid. And he said, before I could log into MindBody to see if it was there, it was done.
Wow.
So it was taking him 20 minutes to stop what he's doing, sit down at his computer, go through the process and do it. Is done in 30 seconds.
That's awesome. And I tell you guys, I can think of, so I've owned multiple types of businesses. I will continue to own multiple types of businesses, because at the end of the day, what I really am is an overall general businessman. So I'm always interested in a good business. It doesn't really matter to me what the business is, with a couple of exceptions. I should probably put that qualifier out there. I just realized I'm a married man with kids. I can't be in some businesses I probably ought not be owning, but I've owned or vetted everything from garbage based businesses where it's literally you got 10 trucks and a garbage route in a small area, all the way to retail stores, to more service based businesses that are in the healthcare space, everything you can imagine. And when you said that, what occurred to me was that there are a lot of businesses that are in some way, shape, or form appointment based, and that doesn't now whether that's a hair salon, a sort of a spa type situation, a nail place, groomer. I can also think of somebody who is more of a consultant or service provider. Same thing. People are still having to schedule an appointment with you to get your time, and so the ability to automate that process, which is time consuming, where whatever your sales platform is, and y'all, whatever you're using, that's fine. So whether it's ClickFunnels, whether it's WordPress, whether it's whether it's the daggum phone book, it doesn't matter to me, although that might be a little bit harder to automate, I suppose. But you can probably figure out a way to automate someone paying you for your service or whatever it is, whether that's an initial 15-minute appointment with you, whether it's an actual, so in the case of a hair salon, it's probably an actual appointment that you're paying for up front. Whatever that is, you can probably automate point A, which is the initial customer's interaction with you once you've taken them through your sales process, whatever that looks like, and the actual scheduling, so that they can immediately in real time go in and do that themselves with some preset parameters on your time that you have set. And here's a quick caveat for you, because I learned this the hard way. I use Calendly. And when I first started using Calendly, those of you who know it already know what I'm going to say. Those of you who've never used it, Calendly is a tool that can be free if you're using the very basic version of it. I actually know the founder of Calendly. They're right here in Atlanta. Great service. His name is Trep. And the only thing about Calendly is that if you go in and you just sort of turn it on and you think that's it, you end up with some problems. And the problems are you have to go in and set your own availability, and you need to be very specific, because what it will default to is pretty much whenever you want to talk to me, go ahead and make an appointment. So all of a sudden, I had set this up on one of my personal executive coaching funnels. I started getting meeting requests for like 9 p.m. at night and all these weird times. I had clients in Australia, so I had like a 2 o'clock in the morning request. I couldn't figure out what was happening. I was so frustrated, and it was my own fault. It was just me not understanding some of the software that I was trying to sort of put together. So I say all that to say that chances are any process that would require an appointment to be set based upon what you've sold, would you agree, Robert, can probably be automated, just might take more or less time on the front end to get that done?
Yeah, and most of those are less time on the front end.
Yeah.
In the sense of, you've got to set up your schedule and sync your calendar to it.
Yeah.
But if you have generic hours, 9 to 5 or noon to 7 or whatever,
easier
hours you use, maybe you don't work Tuesdays or something, I don't know. But you can set that up, and then you sync it. Generally, most of those systems sync to your Google Calendar or your iCal or whatever you use. Yeah. And that way they watch for both personal events. It may be, because I have 2 calendars, a business calendar, a personal calendar. And so I use Book Like a Boss, which is a very similar platform to Calendly. It's a little bit heavier, a little bit more versatile. But it watches my calendar, and it knows that, hey, Thursdays at 9 o'clock, Robert's got a call with Rob, and we do our live video thing. Yeah. So I can't ever schedule anything. Now, I don't have an availability that late. But
that's just a hard block that it's already always there, and nobody can jump in there.
Bingo. I have group coaching calls that I'm on every Tuesday and Thursday, and those are hard blocks on my schedule. Now, if somebody reached out and was like, hey, the only time I can meet with you is 11 o'clock, I can make an exception.
Right.
But as a general rule, I'm not going to, that time is just allotted. It's already given.
Yeah.
So and a lot of these systems too, and I'm not going to break down one by one, will have a padding on them where you can set a 10, 15, 30-minute pad before and after, so that, say you're a hairdresser and you need to have a 10-minute window to wash your tools between wash or sharpen, or, maybe you just want to sit down and drink your coffee for 10 minutes. That way you have a pre-built pad in there so that you don't have to worry about stacking 2 up. One leaves your chair at 11 o'clock and one's there at 11:01. One leaves at 11, the next one's scheduled for 11:15. You have a few minute decompress, drink your coffee, wash your tools, go to the bathroom, whatever it is you have to do to, you kind of have a pre-built time set in there.
And I do that. So I block out lunch, a certain time every day, and I'll block out, gym time is something I did recently before coronavirus, because I was trying to really make an impact on my own personal health. And the only way that I would do that, really, this is a different type of automation, is automating my own schedule so that time was blocked out. And so for me to not go to the gym, I had to make a conscious decision. Like, this is already blocked out on my calendar. This is blocked out in my day. It's automatic. if I'm not going to do it, then I need to really have a conversation with myself about why I'm not doing it, which is always, then you sort of feel like, no, I really ought to go. I've already blocked it out. So what about another one that's really growing in popularity that a lot of folks either don't know about or don't think of as an automation, but it absolutely is a chatbot. And the increasing popularity of chatbots, whether it's ManyChat or, there's a number of others where, again, it's the common conversations that you would have. It's almost like an old decision tree, really, is what it is. And it's, if this, then this. And it's a set of binary sort of places that you're going to send people based upon what they respond. So it's, hello, Robert. Thank you so much for joining the Acme, garden tools list. Do you have an outdoor project that you're doing the next day or two? Yes, no. If it's yes or no, so based upon that, you can put people down a predictable flow, and you can remove some of the burden on really the lower level front end types of communications that you might have with your customers, the loyalty inducing stuff. How are you seeing that sort of begin to be integrated into folks' businesses?
They've taken hold. They've definitely taken hold with the changes that happened January or February. And funny enough, Rob Verzera could speak more of this because he's got a little more realm in the bot world. But they've changed kind of what you can and can't do with them a little bit. But yeah, they're definitely there. And I find value in generic information collection.
Yep.
So real estate agent, what zip code are you looking for? What's your budget? How big of a house are you looking for? Are you looking for a yard? Are you looking for an apartment?
Yeah.
And that way, when I call you, I can already have my computer pulled up to the zip code and the house block that you're going to be looking for. And we can just start looking at houses right away.
Yep.
And so that's a handy thing to do with those kind of things. And they're good as well for scheduling appointments even. I mean, you can build them out so that it can, and don't quote me on this because I'm not very in tune with the bot world, but I've seen some similar things where, hey, can we schedule an appointment, pick a day, pick a time, and it's all done. And I think people are beginning to know they're talking to a bot, but there are still people who aren't aware that they're talking to a bot, especially a well-built bot. If you take the time to build in your typing sequences and stuff like that, where there's a 3-second delay, not just dit, but you respond, there's a 3-second delay, and they send something back. And some people are, I think, a little leery of the fact they're talking to a computer. They don't know it, they're not comfortable with it. But it's really, you don't realize how much you're doing that anyway.
Yeah, I'll tell you, for me, with my coaching clients, so folks who will reach out to me and they want sort of an executive session, like a 1-hour executive session, I charge $300 for that. And here's the deal. That's for some people, that's not much money. For some people, it's a lot of money. Kind of depends on where you are. The thing is, it's $300 from the moment that you get on the phone with me to the time that phone call ends. You get 60 minutes. So what I try to really do, and this is where I'm having someone build a bot for me. So here's another example of an automation within an automation. So I know that it's going to take me so long to build that bot that it would be inefficient. So essentially I'm automating. I'm saying, here's what I want it to do. Here's a list of the information that I want. You go build it. That's an automation. And then of course they're building me an automation. So it's a double automation. But what I really want to know is, there's kind of a list of common things that folks call me for and the reason that they want to talk to me. So if they want to talk to me, they've got an expensive problem of some type and they need me to help them work through it. So whether that's an issue with their own productivity, their own mindset, their own motivation, a structure within their business, they might be thinking about a big acquisition. They might be thinking about making a change, a marketing issue, any number of things. It's very helpful if before I even get on the phone call, or Zoom call, as it were, it's really very helpful for me if I already have an understanding of what the problem is, how much it's costing them, what they're needing to understand at the end of the call, so that I don't have to waste any time during that call getting background information. So for me, as someone who's just sort of a professional problem solver, just tries to help people very quickly solve these problems, I like to use those bots to get some of that info out of the way so I can do my homework. So I might have that information, at least 48 hours before, so that there's research that I need to do in a vertical. So if I have a customer who is, in the petroleum business and they've got a challenge or they need to do an acquisition and they want my information, my input on something, I need that information in advance so I can go do some competitive research and some market research so that I don't sound like an idiot and I'm somewhat informed on whatever their challenge is. E-commerce, this happens all the time. So if I'm coaching somebody who's got a $4 million Amazon brand and they're wanting to diversify out a little bit to other platforms for any number of reasons, or maybe add a new product line. I want to know what their product is now. I want to know what their demographic is, what their avatar is, what they've already done, what they haven't done, the platforms they've tried, the platforms they haven't tried. And I'm going to do some marketing research before I even talk to them so that I'm prepared. It's not efficient for me. I'd have to charge a whole lot more money if I had to manually go, and that's what I've historically done. So I'd have to charge a lot more money if I had to spend 2 hours of prep time for the 1 hour of call time. I'd have to triple my rates. So
Right.
for those of you who are in the type of business where you might do some consulting, just start to think through ways that you may be able to pull some of the more time-consuming tasks off your plate that you maybe didn't even think about. So intake, healthcare. I have a lot of healthcare clients. So if you're a chiropractor, right? So if you're a chiropractor and you've got a new client sequence and somebody has opted into your point, Robert, you've got a lead magnet. A lot of chiropractors are doing this now, where you get a free PDF report or a free video on whatever, and you opt in. And I now know enough about your business that I like you. And I'm like, you know what? That Robert seems like he's a crackerjack guy. I think he's smart. I think he can help me with whatever my problem is. I'm going to set an appointment. Well, here's the thing. You now ideally would like to know as much about what's going on with me before I even step into your office, because what you'd love to do is know that I've got lower back pain, that I had a car accident 2 years ago, that I've tried 3 different things that didn't work. I've already been to 2 chiropractors. I've tried acupuncture. I've tried yoga. I've tried Pilates. I've tried underwater immersion therapy with a stuffed rabbit, whatever. You want to know that information as I come into your building, because then the 1 hour time slot that really I've paid for, you're prepared and you can just knock it out of the park with me without having to waste a lot of time doing triage, is what they would call that in the medical field. So the more you can automate that type of thing, so that you can just boom, I'm going to sit down right here and I'm going to look at this, and it's going to take me 10 minutes because I'm a professional chiropractor doing chiropractor things. I'm going to look at this list and I know pretty quickly, hey, it says here that you had a car accident back in so-and-so, and you tried this, and this, those things didn't work. I see that often with my patients. You know what? I have an idea of something that might work for you. Here's why I think it would work. Do you want to give it a try? That just makes that whole sequence a lot faster than if I had to just spend all that time trying to drag out of you the information. Right. And how many times, Robert, have you had a client that it's like we get this face-to-face sort of memory impediment, where you've got a lot of really important information that would be helpful for whomever you're trying to engage and hire, whether it's a coach, a service provider, consultant, a business. It'd be helpful for them to know, but for whatever reason, when you get in that face-to-face conversation, you forget some real important details.
Out the window.
Right out the window they go. So it would be very helpful if there was an automated sequence before then, where you have a little bit of time to think and you're not rushed, where you can interact and sort of put that information in, and that way they can be fully aware of your needs. So if you're digital content people, same thing. I'm going to interview a lady later this week who has a digital marketing agency, and they just won some sort of award. And I was talking to her about what are some of her greatest challenges. And she said, one of the hardest things is really getting at the heart of what clients are really needing and what their real pain point is. Because when they talk to them, sometimes they've had so much bad experience and they've tried so many things themselves and they probably didn't work out, that they, instead of talking about the real problem, they start talking about all the things that didn't work. And then it's like this long drawn out thing of almost like, oh gosh, you're my solution provider, but let me tell you the 30 ways I tried this and they didn't work and it's not productive. So
Right.
I said to her, I said, you know what, do you have any automated intake sequence? And she's like, not really, it's all manual. So that's an example where her time, really, her most profitable time is the time that she's actually solving problems for clients. Same with all of us, right? Our most profitable time is the point where we're doing the thing that they're paying us to do and we're giving them that result. The rest of it, the intake stuff, you need it, but you're not really getting paid during that time. So what other areas that I didn't talk about? We talked about chatbots. What other automation areas have you, maybe some, especially if you can think of some that maybe are an area where someone wouldn't even think to automate it?
So one of my favorite stupid Zaps, and Zapier is a platform that does automation systems. You build it and it moderates those for you, if you will. Okay. It watches my Gmail or my G Suite as it is, but it watches for any email coming in with receipt, invoice, or payment in the title.
Okay.
Segments the email and puts a PDF into a Drive folder.
Ooh.
That way at the end, well, I'm going to say at the end of the month, I'm a good little business owner, but at the end of the year, when I do my taxes,
It's all one folder.
it's already exactly. But that way I don't have to go sort and chase that stuff. And that's one of those things that a lot of people don't necessarily think about. And I've actually got a PDF that I'm building that I just haven't finished because it's halfway there. And then I got distracted with another project. But of several things like that, not bill collection, but payment collection as you go. And I built a system for a guy one time that he swipes his card, the bank sends a notification, we catch the notification, pre-fill a form, send him a text message to open the form up, and it says, hey, you just swiped your card at Home Depot on April 7th at 6:40 for an amount of $47.86. And he can put in the project he's working on. He was a home renovation guy, right? So he's tracking houses. The address he's working on. He can put in the necessity or whatever other variable fields he wants to put in. And then he saves that and it goes straight to Google Sheet or straight to QuickBooks or straight to whatever system he's using to track those expenses. So again, at the end of the year, you're not having to chase your tail to get all that put together.
I love it, man. That reminds me of so mileage, right? Most of us, when we're traveling, you can write off your mileage, but if anyone has never been audited, I don't recommend it. But if you have, if you have been audited, like I have, you realize very quickly that what your idea of satisfactory mileage record keeping is, and what the IRS's idea of satisfactory mileage record keeping are not entirely the same thing. So they really want a lot of information. They want to know the beginning mileage. They want to know the ending mileage. They want to know where you were going. They want to know what you were doing. So nobody has time to do that manually. I don't think. I certainly don't. But I found a piece of software. The one that I use is called Trep Pro, and it just hooks onto my phone, and it just does it automatically. And it will actually ping me to say, hey, we realize that you're moving right now. Where are you going? And boom, you just stick it in there right there. It's a tiny extra step. Yes, that takes 2 extra seconds, but that 2 extra seconds each time saves me a lot of money and a lot of time at the end of the year, because I don't need to worry about trying to go back and guess how much of my mileage was this, how much was that. It also, to your point, it imports in one place. It can kind of put together invoices for car rentals, airfare, hotels, all that, boom. And I don't have to think about it. So
Right.
It really became, because that can be a full-time job if you're trying to do all that manually and track all of your expenses, especially even if it's not travel. Think about folks who have a high inventory cost in their business. So whatever it is, they're buying a lot of stuff. Folks who constantly, you gave a great example, general contractors, man, they wear out lumber yards, Home Depot, all these places. And if you added up the number of transactions, the good ones do what you said. They have all that sort of automated, boom, boom, boom. Most of them, especially if they're older, no offense to my older folks, it's like crumpled receipts stuffed into a manila envelope in the truck. And at some point, they try to get the wife or somebody to go through there, or some poor assistant, and figure out what on earth these hand-scrawled notes are. So that's a great example of something that could be automated, that you could just have it done, boom, I'm over it. Let's talk about a potentially sensitive topic, but it's a very important topic right now. So automate, right? Now, by now, everybody has a pretty good feel for what an automation is, why you might want to do it, how you might go about it. And we've barely scratched the surface here, folks. There's so many different types of automations, whether it's a hard automation, person to person, that's a literal human automation where you have someone that's doing something for you, a task that you've assigned, or a software automation, or an integration, an API, as Robert said. But here's the other part of this. Sometimes, especially in times where money's a little tight in a business and you have to really make sure that every dollar that's being spent is a wise dollar that's being spent. And sometimes, unfortunately, that means you have to look at some employees in your organization, and you have to determine, is this employee's task something that I absolutely need a human being to do? Or do I need 40 hours a week of a human being doing it? Or if no, can I automate it? And if I can automate it, then it sort of becomes a question of how can I automate it? So can I automate it? Is it a data entry task? That's probably not a task that you need somebody that's US based to do. And I know this gets sensitive and people have different opinions about this, but I'm just laying out some ideas and some facts for you. If you have something that's just data entry, where you're just taking one spreadsheet and you're moving and collecting data from that spreadsheet, filtering it and moving it to another spreadsheet, and everything is online and there's no external factors that are physically location dependent, you're probably spending too much money for that right now. You just are. And so that's one area where you could potentially save some cost. Other areas are, there could be a lot of automations in your business where you may not need someone to do that. So you may be able to cut back. What I'm getting at is you may be able to cut back on significantly on some of your payroll overhead if you think through repetitive tasks that folks may be able to do. So I don't know, have you worked with folks, Robert, where they were maybe not intentionally looking to, or even if they were, eliminate a position, but that by doing something in a more efficient way, that's kind of what ended up happening?
Yeah, well, I can't say I've ever done anything that would, to the scale that would remove a person.
Yeah.
But probably reduce work hours. I actually, when we got into this, I was thinking about it a second ago. The Zapier has an expert certification they have, and I failed it because my answer was too technical. Funny enough, that's a whole different story. But I thought about that, and I pulled up the work for that I wanted to run through. But I literally built out a system that fired it fired the front desk assistant, secretary, whatever you want to call her, except that Zapier can't answer a phone. But quite literally, you built an online intake form, right? And so where somebody would fill out a quote form basically, and then she would sit down and manually calculate it. Well, we took that system, ran it through some calculations, and spit it out on the other end with a pre-built quote that sends them a PDF of an invoice that says, "Hey, pay this, and we'll come do your job." And there's no manual. All the numbers are calculated, and it may be one of those that we might know that looking at this or looking at pictures, it's going to be a 70% job instead of a 50% job. Some of that can have a human input, but it gets the job done at a high level. Putting in, and then he put in the quote if he went out to his job site. Let me see what else it does. Sending a review email follow-up. So once we get paid on a job or mark a job finished, 3 days later you send an automated email out that says, "Hey, we came out, we did a job. How was it? How was our crew? Whatever," to get your feedback on it.
Retention and satisfaction is an amazing place for automation, and it's the easiest place for folks that are not doing it to get started, because a lot of folks, sadly, they don't even have a process for what you just described. It's, okay, we did this, now we're on to the next customer, when in reality, cultivating that relationship, any potential referrals that could come from that relationship, or even just positive testimonials and reviews, that's all stuff you can automate. That's a great point.
Yeah. But there's a couple other points there. I don't want to get all into it, but yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things you can do that unfortunately can remove the human element, especially at a secretarial level. I'm not being degradatory about secretary.
No, I think everybody gets it. I mean, I'll give you two examples. I'll give you two examples of where I've helped a client, which to me, when I understand this, folks, when I say client, just with the breadth of my experience, sometimes that has been an individual person, and oftentimes it's been a corporation of many different sizes. So there have been a number of times where I helped a client, and by helping them, unfortunately, that meant that some folks lost their jobs. I'll give you a specific example. I had one fairly large corporate client who had a good-sized sales force, and it was an in-person sales force. They had people that were kind of territory sales reps. They owned a sort of a geographical piece of dirt, and they paid the folks a base salary that was pretty generous, and then kind of a small override, if you will, on commissions of sales that were generated in that particular dirt. And I can't give too much away, or it'll be obvious who they were. And I always do NDAs with my clients. There's a few that don't care, but most of them don't want me to talk about them specifically. But this one, what ended up happening was their sales just kind of weren't where they wanted them to be. Their revenue numbers, top line, weren't where they wanted them to be. And when you looked at it, there's a lot of things that can happen there. It can be stickiness. It can be an offer problem. It can be obsolescence, where whatever they were offering. So let's say maybe it's a pest control company and they were using a technology that just doesn't work as well as a newer technology. So their market share can go down. A lot of stuff can happen. In this case, they actually had the technology they were using was state of the art. So that wasn't the problem. There was no obsolescence problem. Their offer was pretty good. Their marketing was pretty well on point. The problem was, candidly, they had salespeople that were not incentivized to go out and hunt and kill, because they were really not going to make very much more money than they already were making. So there was no real behavior. Incentivization is an interesting thing. People tend to behave in the way that you incentivize them to behave, especially salespeople. So if you've got a bunch of salespeople that you've hired and they're the type of person who's attracted to a base salary, you've already got a problem, because most really high level salespeople, they don't want you to limit their income. That's an offense to them. It's a personal affront. If you're going to tell me how much I can earn. No. You give me a good product and a pipeline and some leads, and I want to go make my money. That's what I want to do. These folks had a bunch of salespeople that they just were the wrong people. That, I mean, they were bad people. They were just the wrong people. So what we figured out was there wasn't a lot of need for face-to-face contact with the nature of the product, the service that these folks were selling. So what we decided to do was a beta test where we did a small test, and we actually engaged a third-party call center, a sales closer center. So to your point, you're going to like this. So they were using a funnel. It wasn't ClickFunnels, but they were using a funnel, created a funnel, step people through the funnel to kind of qualify them as customers. And this was probably a $2,500 offer on the face of it. That's probably the back end of it. There was a monthly fee you could pay to break it down, but it was about a $2,500 package. And we engaged a third-party call center, and essentially we pre-qualified the leads so that somebody just had to sit in front of their computer, click a button, the lead popped up, and they immediately went into a script that was pre-written. So that's another automation. It was pre-written script that had already been validated, written by a phenomenal copywriter, and these are pros, right into what they went. Their close rate before, this company, the close rate of their just normal reps that they had in the field was less than 10%. So less than 10% of the offers that these folks got were closed.
Wow.
The close rate of this sort of call center professional closer type thing was 60%. 60%. And this is a 90-day trial with a small percentage of the business. So we had sort of the follow-up meeting, and here's the danger. The follow-up meeting is, holy smokes, this is amazing. Look at the close rate here. Let's fire all of our in-person salespeople and only use this call center. Well, hang on now. That's a little bit dangerous, because you can't assume that you can extrapolate this out to your entire organization or to every area of your company. But what you can probably do initially is you can backstop people with this call center, and you can just make the existing folks' territories bigger and add a customer service component to it, because the customer service piece, it's an in-person service. The customer service piece is something that a call center really can't do as well. So that's an example where they ended up reducing the size of their sales force by, I want to say it was 30%, somewhere 30, 40%, and then maybe more. I left after that. They were happy and everything was good. But it's an example where they were using a little bit of an antiquated, expensive, obsolete human capital model, I would say. And when they were able to sort of switch it up a little bit, and this is true with marketing. Marketing is an interesting space. Pharmaceutical sales is a good example, where doctors don't really have time to have some pharmaceutical salesperson come and talk to them for 20 minutes anymore, because they have to see an average of 40 to 50 patients a day. A lot of people don't know that. Physicians now, in order to make money, need to see 40 to 50 patients per day, especially if they're a specialized physician like cardiologist or something else. They have to see so many, and a lot of them carry a stopwatch, so they know, like, that's why the nurses do so much of the work. When was the last time you went to the doctor and didn't sit for 20 minutes with a nurse for the doctor to come in for maybe 3 minutes and then leave? That's why. Exactly. So that's an automation essentially in and of itself. But what ends up happening is folks have to adapt in order to drive the revenue that they need to drive. So marketing and sales is a field where automation is happening so fast that in some ways you can't help but put some people out of jobs to some degree. Same with offshoring. I mean, AT&T is a good example. I don't mean to, I never want to throw shade at any one company, but they're so big that nobody's going to get their feelings hurt. AT&T 8 months ago made a strategic decision to offshore their entire customer service and back office operation, every last thing. And they did it overnight. Well, what are the impacts of that? Not only is AT&T a wireless provider, so if you had a cell phone, who you were calling changed just like that. You went from talking to somebody in Charlotte, North Carolina, who had some autonomy to solve your problem, to talking to somebody in Delhi, India, or Manila, Philippines. It was one of those two places who not only did they not have autonomy, they didn't have a full mastery of the English language, and they had no ability to do anything that wasn't on a script that was in front of them. So think about that. Like, how many times you talk to somebody and you get to a point in the script, and then you've confused them and they just start over again on the script, right? That's a bad use of automation. Their business dropped by 30% because folks were so unhappy with it. So AT&T did that. AT&T owns DirecTV. DirecTV went from having the best customer service over and over and over again, year over year over year over year, to within 1 year of them making that change, tanked. So automation should be working for you in your business, but you do have to be careful that you don't cut so deeply with automation that it ends up making your business seem inhuman and removes that human touch. Does that make sense? You agree with that, Robert?
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
That's where, jokingly, like I said earlier, Zachary can't answer a phone. You still need to have that human ability so that if somebody calls and says, hey, I screwed up my quote, I put the wrong address on it, they can get a hold of somebody to fix that problem.
Yeah, I have a belief, and it's just my own belief. I think that one of the worst places to use automation, and other than organization. So organizing this, what I'm about to say, it does make sense to use automation. But customer service is one place where I think if you're going to spend some dollars in your budget of your organization, it does not matter to me whether you're a small company or a huge company. Customer service is kind of the one place where if it's just a one-man shop, you want a problem to come to you. You want to have that conversation with your client because you need to be able to fix it and make a human decision for a human problem in real time. You don't want to have a situation where folks get frustrated because it's a fairly simple problem they have, but they get so irritated trying to work their way through an automation that they just quit and they give up on you. So customer service is a space where I actually think some companies are starting to realize that that's a problem. They're actually starting to reinvest and think about bringing back some of these call centers. You're starting to see call centers pop back up in the United States that were gone because there was this backlash. Like nobody wants to talk to somebody, no disrespect to some of the amazing people who work in the Philippines and India. I employ some of them, but nobody wants to talk to those people when the fit hits the shan. Nobody. Everybody wants to. I want to talk to you. I want to talk to a guy with a Texas accent. I want to talk to somebody in New York. I want to talk to somebody who I know understands, at least in some way, the worldview that I have and can solve my problem. Right. So automation, guys, is something that I guess maybe to put a bow on this, and then I would love to maybe at the end give you a ability to plug where folks can find you and maybe what they would come to you for. But my view of automation, and this changes every day, and I'm learning every day, I want to try to use tools that are good tools that allow me to remove myself from operations which are just not necessary for me and are candidly, it's more expensive for me to do them than to automate it or have somebody else do it. That's where I want to remove myself. And I want to use it as a way to augment my business and make it easier and better for me and for my customers and clients and employees. What I don't want to do is to create automations that actually make more work or make it harder. So be thinking in your own business, folks, about ways, and certainly as you watch this video later on, please have some discussions in the comments with ways that you've automated in your business that have worked really well for you, because other folks will benefit from that information and we can have an open dialogue about it. So, Mr. Segelquist, where can folks find you and why should they reach out to you? How can you help people?
Systemsandautomations.com. Funny enough. Systemsandautomations.com.
See what you did there.
Yeah. But that's where you can, that's an easy place to find me. One of many, but that's an easy place to find me. And anything, if as we said earlier, if you're doing something repetitively and you think it can be automated, I'm more than happy to have a conversation. And a lot of things, like Zapier is a tool. It's a fairly user-friendly programming system. But if you aren't familiar with how it works or don't know what it does or get into it, like, oh my God, it doesn't do what I want it to do, I can set that kind of stuff up for you.
Okay.
And then there's systems that don't have like a Zapier interface, and they'll have what's called an API or an open API. And that's where you really need somebody like me that can come in and understands how to read the computer language and make two computers talk to each other. And that's where the term webhook comes into play. And a webhook is nothing more than a computer giving an order or accepting an order, so essentially. But that's a lot of what I do is building APIs. And what I mentioned earlier with Stripe, I've got one set up that when you purchase a subscription product and then you upsell like a one-time or an annual on that, then it cancels the initial monthly subscription.
Oh, that's big. Yeah, because that's not an automatic thing. Great point.
Right. And so I posted in the ClickFunnels Facebook group, hey, has anybody found a way to do this? And I knew I could do it one way, but I was looking for other ideas.
Other ways to do it. Yep,
right.
absolutely.
And somebody said, well, you could just send yourself a notification and, manually cancel it. And I was like, that sounds like work. You don't know me very well. But again, people don't realize.
What if you have 8,000? What if you have 8,000 of those?
Right.
That's easy if you got 10 customers, but what if you got 8,000 customers? That's not so easy.
Well, that's the thing. A lot of things, it's what's the value at scale? If it's going to cost me 10 hours to build that and I'm only going to do it 20 times, I'm probably better off
just doing it.
Yep. But if it's something that you're going to do 2, 3, 4 times a day, or even 2 or 3, 4 times a month.
Yep.
There's a time value in that. I think somebody earlier said opportunity cost. That's what a lot of it boils down to. Is the opportunity to do something else with it. And so you have things that are better, your time is better served doing something else.
Yeah.
And so it just boils down to what is it you should be doing or what you could be doing with that time. And a lot of it, even the 30-second task of canceling a subscription, it's not the 30-second task that's painful. It's stopping what I'm doing.
Yeah.
To do a 30-second task.
It's what Anas here said. It's opportunity cost. It takes you time to shift your energy and focus from probably what is a more important task to what is a less important task, but that does have to be done, but it doesn't have to be done by you. So great point.
Right. So yeah, and I mean, a lot of that stuff you can have a VA do it, but again, and I always joke that Zapier is the 24/7 VA that doesn't sleep,
never complains,
and does exactly what you tell them to every time without flaw.
Yeah, I love that, man. That is awesome. Well, guys, what we'll do is we will have Robert on again because there were going to be more things that pop up, especially as we start to learn more about business and as technology shifts and changes and we learn things. We'll make Robert a frequent guest, and if that's okay with you, Robert, I just voluntold you. We'll bring Robert on, and we'll talk more about specific things, especially if you have questions in particular. Bring us interesting use cases, weird stuff that you're dealing with. We would love to have a few of those, and we'll bang on almost like a Q&A, and we'll even bring some of you guys on, and we'll talk through some ways that you might be able to solve them. And I'm more than happy to avail you of any resources we have, and maybe Robert can walk through some ideas that he might have for how you might be able to fix something. So, Robert, thank you so much, brother, for jumping on here with us, man. Sorry for my tech issues. I'm realizing, speaking of automations, I'm gonna have to automate this. I'm realizing, so I'm on Wi-Fi like most of you, and I think just with the number of people that are homeschooling right now and sitting here watching Tiger King on Netflix, I think the bandwidth is a problem. So I'm gonna have to probably hardwire myself here so that doesn't happen again. But I thank all of you for your patience and your time. And again, please jump on the YouTube channel, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Hit the little notification bell that you can get notified when things happen. And also Trep Across America Facebook group, join there. I'll put a lot of sort of different resources and information in there, and Robert's in there too. So you can tag him if you have a specific question, and I'm sure he'll jump in there.
We're happy to.
And meet him. Go if you want to work with Robert, if you have something that based upon what he said, you think he can help you, then go find him at www.systemsandautomation.com. And if that doesn't work, dudewithgiantcowboyhat.com. No, don't go there. I don't know what that's going to be. Don't go there. But Robert will help you out, and I know he'll take great care of you. So
it's available now.
That's it, man. Thank you so much, Robert. Thank you, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your evening, and we will see you later this week. Take care, guys.
Thanks for having me on.
All right, man.